Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. I have been sharing my experience, my professional experience as cost auditor, as IAS auditor, and also as a banker. Today I propose to share my overseas banking experience. Way back in 1986, my bank started the process of selecting officers for overseas posting. About 1,200 officers were desirous of applying, were desirous of overseas posting. I also applied. Out of 1,200 officers, 11 were selected. I am one of the 11 selected for the overseas posting. There was initial euphoria that I have been successful in the selection process, but then later I realized that posting in Hong Kong for 5 years means I'll have to miss all these special aspects of Chennai, the Hindu newspaper in the morning, coffee, nice coffee prepared at home, visit to temples, Kapaleswara temple Mylapore, say Parthasarathi Swami temple in Triplicane, then Vadapadan Murugan temple, Ashtalakshmi temple in Besant Nagar. So I was half a mind to go abroad. My parents were also a bit worried since some of our relatives and friends stated that the weather conditions in Hong Kong will be very cold and hygiene cannot be maintained. And definitely whatever acharam we maintain in a traditional Brahmin family, they cannot be maintained in a overseas center. And my parents were also getting old, so I was in half a mind only, and almost decided not to go to Hong Kong. But then destiny thought otherwise, God thought otherwise. I was manager of a branch here, and my chief cashier had committed a fraud. I had brought out the fraud to the top management, then followed the process whereby the chief cashier was dismissed from bank service. My parents were very apprehensive that the chief cashier may manhandle me, so they advised me to go abroad, not to remain in India. So my wife and I, we changed our mind and proceeded to Hong Kong. And the landing of the aircraft in Hong Kong was looking very wonderful because South China Sea is nearby. It looked as though the flight is going very near to South China Sea, but then it landed correctly in the airport nearby. The entire city was looking very colorful. All the buildings in the Hong Kong city and Kowloon, they were all skyscrapers, very tall buildings with very decorative lights and shades. The roads were all very well built and without any ups and downs. And there was good lighting in all the roads. Many people were moving in the road all the time, almost all the 24 hours. Very active, laughing people, very smiling people. And the train services were also very good. They call that metro. Some of the trains were going under the sea. Some of the trains were going over the ground, and some of the trains were going on the ground. And the bus services were very excellent. All the buses had only minimum passengers, and everybody gets a seating arrangement. The buses were run very smoothly and looked very neat also. The roads were all good, and so that way everything appeared to be very fine. We are very happy to go to Hong Kong and be there. The difficult portion, challenging portion, I will cover in the last part of this speech. The container port in Hong Kong was one of the largest in the world. and all the exports from China to other countries were always routed through Hong Kong port, Hong Kong harbor only. And of course, Shanghai was also there, and all the imports from other countries to Hong Kong and China were also very huge. Thus, the volume of activity was very high, and this translated to a lot of prosperity for all the people of Hong Kong. In fact, at that point of time, I used to think Hong Kong is actually a temple of world commerce and trade. Such was the volume of business and activity. The people of Hong Kong are always focused on money making. All the major buildings in the business district outside their office, they used to have a big monitor where they used to display the prices of equity shares, the prices of equity shares as they were traded in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. They call that Hang Seng Index. And apart from the live prices of shares, the foreign exchange rates of different currencies also used to be displayed. The rate of different currency, for example, pound sterling is US dollar, then Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, German mark, Swiss franc. Thus, exchange rate of all the currencies against US dollar used to be displayed, and the price of gold also used to be displayed. And a lot of people be watching all that. And the political news, international news, and local news, and financial news, economic news also used to be scrolled along with the price of shares. Hence, the people of Hong Kong, they are called the honkies. They could take a well-informed decisions in all the purchases relating to investment. The banks were selling gold also to retail customers. So some of the customers used to go to the bank, buy gold at a lower price in the morning, sit in the bank itself, and when the price goes up, they used to sell the gold at a higher price to the same bank, thus making a good profit. This sort of trading in gold, many people used to do every day. Sometimes they do this trade many times every day. Thus, the people of Hong Kong are always money-minded, and they always look for opportunities to make money in a speculative market. But then there were failures also, and those who failed and lost their money, they had committed suicide. Coming to the bank, in bank also we had a very strange experience. One of the efficient lady staff members of the bank, she was very good at work. Suddenly one day she said that she resigned the job. Now we were all a bit worried because she was so efficient and hardworking. We asked the reason for that. She informed that she is getting a higher salary. Higher salary means increased by 25 Hong Kong dollars in the saloon in the higher floor. And she is going to join the saloon as assistant. And we were not surprised. In India, we cannot think of that. Somebody leaving the bank job and joining the saloon just for the sake of some small increase in the remuneration. So that way people are very money-minded. But then all the staff in the bank used to be very punctual. They all used to come to office before they started working hours, and whatever work is assigned to them, they used to do that with all sincerity and hard work, and very meticulous in work also. And unless the work is completed in the evening, they will not leave the office. They will stay up to even 8:30 or 9 in the night. And Unless they leave the office, we cannot leave. Expat bank offices there. I was comparing this with the working position in India at that point of time. Trade unions were very dominant. They had advised all the bank employees not to sit late because overtime was not agreed with the bank management. So all the staff of the bank used to hand over to the supervisor or the assistant manager whatever pending work, saying that they could not complete the work within the normal working hours and they will take over the job the next day. So my mind used to think that is why China and Hong Kong had a very high growth rate, whereas in India in those years the growth rate was very low. The operations of the bank in Hong Kong are mainly deposits and advances besides locker services. And deposit, we had local deposits and also euro deposits. Euro deposit means people can keep a deposit in all the foreign currencies, namely US dollar, pound sterling, German mark, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, then Singapore dollar. And one more notable feature is that the period of deposit will always be very short. 1 day or 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month or maximum 3 months. Very rarely they keep deposits for 6 months. And more than 6 months, practically no deposit will be there. And every day in the morning, it's a regular job. The card rate for the interest rates for various currencies and various time periods used to be given to the staff, and the customers will normally accept record rate. It is based on the interbank rate for deposits, for lending and borrowing for those respective periods. But some large customers, they used to negotiate and argue for a very high interest rate, bargain always for a very high interest rate. And then even that will be also very fine fraction. Normally we give the interest rate as 1/8%, like that. They will say 1/8 is not sufficient, please give me 3/16. That means 1/16% more than the normal card rate. Sometimes they will say even 3/16 is also not sufficient. Please give us 7/32. And being a foreign bank in Hong Kong, our deposit base is on the lower side, and we had to accommodate all the customers working deposits, even if that meant a slightly higher rate. Otherwise, the party will say that we will transfer the funds to some other bank. In those days, the main bank giving higher rate of interest in Hong Kong was BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International. That bank used to follow all bad practices, and ultimately the bank became insolvent. That bank is no longer there now. And like the interest rates and deposits, exchange rate also used to be negotiated. Exchange rate is always required for conversion of sale proceeds of documents to other currencies, or for transfer of funds. And foreign exchange rates, also card rates will be there based on interbank exchange rate, offer and bid rate. But then and the customers, those who are doing very large amount transactions, they'll ask for a very fine rate, and that will be negotiated with them. It's all a very tough job. The actual success can be experienced only. The actual challenge can be experienced only, cannot be described in words. Then apart from the euro deposit, there are also local deposits. Actually, when there are many offices, expat offices in the branch, and the bank had the policy of rotating the offices every 6 months or at least every 9 months. I had the fortune of working in all the departments, and finally for about 2.5 years, I also worked in the dealing room as the chief dealer of foreign exchange. My first placement was manager of current accounts deposits. Actually, local deposits, current account and savings account, they take a lot of time. And checking of cash is also under my portfolio only, as part of deposits. On the first day when I went for checking the cash, I noticed that the currency notes were not stitched or bundled as we do in India. They were all just some rubber band used to be put around them. And another troubling system is that in the morning when the cash is taken out from the safe, the entire cash used to be taken out and kept in the custody of the assistant cashier. It would have been a good practice had only some cash is brought out for day-to-day operations, and the balance, a large portion, is continued to be kept in a safe room. But the practice is that the entire cash is to be brought out and will be in the custody of the assistant cashier. I was a bit worried about this practice since I went through a very difficult period in my previous branch as manager, since the chief cashier of that branch committed a fraud, and I will talk about it in some other episode. So now the assistant cashier was keeping a large amount of cash. At the time it was about 10 million Hong Kong dollars. My feeling was that such a large cash is not required, since cash also cost of carrying cash is also there. Why unnecessarily incur that cost? So I discussed with the chief cashier and the assistant cashier, and they informed me that the practice in Hong Kong is that the Monetary Authority of Hong Kong will be able to replenish the cash only after 2 days clear notice. That means if cash is requested on Monday, the bank will get the cash only Wednesday after the close of banking hours, and that cash can be deployed only on Thursday morning. So the cash department, the chief cashier and assistant cashier were a bit reluctant to keep a low cash balance. They are all holding high cash balance. They also told me that some of the customers had the habit of drawing very high amount as cash withdrawal. I checked it for quite a few months. I found that about 5 customers had the habit of drawing high withdrawals on certain dates, and otherwise cash operations are only minimal only medium and small amounts. So I got in touch with those 5 customers, informed them about the difficulty we are facing, and requested them to give 3 days notice in advance if they want to withdraw certain higher amount beyond certain benchmark, and they also agreed. And this practice was followed. In the process, I could bring down the cash balance on hand from 10 million Hong Kong dollars to only 2 million Hong Kong dollars. The another very irritating aspect in that deposit department was clearinghouse used to take 2 clear days for returning the checks as dishonored if the checks are not paid by the paying bank. However, the customer who deposits the check to credit up their account, they will always want to draw against that the same day itself. And we had to put up a note to our general manager and asking for approval for allowing such drawings against the checks deposited but not cleared. So we had to give the details of checks deposited on day 1, day 2 and day 3. And based on these checks deposited, withdrawal used to be allowed. But then sometimes the checks deposited may be returned also, when a lot of problems used to be there, a lot of discussions, and fresh checks are deposited. This was a very irritating aspect in that department. Then apart from deposits, advances also, actually in Hong Kong, there is no cash credit facility against hypothecation of stock or against pledge of stock. Only overdraft is given to meet the cash expenses, and export documents either under LC or not under LC or purchased and credit is given to the party. Then limit is also given for establishing letters of credit and giving letters of guarantee. So only these 5 types are very popular there. Export documents given for purchase when they are supported by documentary credit or letter credit, that's called as negotiation. And here the Chinese staff and supervisors used to be very meticulous. They'll keep a ruler, move it sentence by sentence in the letter of credit and see that and verify if the terms of the credit have been complied with by the exporter who is submitting documents for negotiation. And apart from verifying with the letter of credit, the supervisor and the staff are also required to know the uniform customs and practices, UCP and Incoterms. But then those who are on the job, they are very thorough with all that, and they always do not miss out any point, and the discrepancies are noted and given to the manager for scrutiny. And ultimately, the manager should take a decision whether to negotiate a document, and if so, guarantee to be taken, and that is all based on the discussions between the exporter as the seller and the overseas importer as the buyer. Based on all these decisions were taken. But then bank used to be very careful if there are any discrepancies. Normally we don't negotiate documents with the discrepancies. Even if we say there are no discrepancies, sometimes the overseas bank issuing the letter of credit, they will always want to find that one discrepancy or other and return the document. So we are very careful on that. And then without a letter of credit also, parties give export documents for purchase. Here a lot of credit risk is involved. If the document is not paid by the overseas buyer, then funds have to be recovered from our customer who gave the document for purchase. Sometimes it will be outside document and sometimes use on documents, and they are backed by bill of lading in the case of shipment by sea, and air bill in the case of shipment by air. And the documents evidencing the shipment, sometimes they may not be real documents, so they have to be examined very thoroughly. There was one anecdote where one party had given export document for purchase, and the bill of lading indicated the name of the ocean liner and the name of the vessel. But then the manager checked the shipping times. He found that there was no such vessel, and the matter was reported to the police, and action was taken against the party since he committed a fraud. In another case, export documents were purchased, but then documents were returned by the overseas buyer. The funds could not be realized from the exporter also. The container which was sent abroad was taken back, and when they were opened to see whether any security is there which can be sold in the open market, but then when we opened, it was found that originally in the bill of lading the goods were stated to be television sets, but then when the container was opened, inside actually no television sets were there, only some radios were there. So ultimately the value of the document given for purchase, the security was only partly covered that. So these sort of situations used to be there, and every export bill submitted for negotiation and every export bill submitted for purchase used to be a very interesting case study. A lot of application of mind was required, and a lot of discussions were there, and application of UCP and Incoterms used to be there. All this made the job very interesting, and the commitment of the local Chinese supervisors and local Chinese staff also helped a lot. Yeah, so also there is a lot of import documents. Import documents used to be retired by the local customer. Sometimes use on basis, sometimes on demand basis. So all these in import documents also a lot of scrutiny is involved. Either it's letter of credit or the bill of lading and the purchase order and all that. And see, every export bill, every import bill will tell a lot of story and very interesting story. And whoever is the manager, we used to discuss with other expat managers also. So we used to have very lively and interesting discussion, so that we adopt the best practice. So we had a good time in all this. Apart from banking side, another the case of foreign exchange dealing also, a lot of pressures used to be there. Normally we used to do day trade and then cover it in the night trade in the American market. All of us, all the customers used to have financial pages. In the financial page, it's a very small instrument where the exchange rates of different currencies and the price of gold against US dollar, against 1 troy ounce, what is the price of US dollar, those rates used to appear on a real time basis. And I had the habit of covering the positions in American US markets also. When my parents were in Hong Kong, my parents were with me for about 2 months. One day night I was doing that. My father asked me, "What are you doing the night?" I told him I'm selling dollar. He asked me how much is it. I told him $1 million. He was surprised. He said, how do you have $1 million? Where do you keep $1 million in your hand? No, it's not like that. It's all transferred from our correspondent account in USA. So then I also explained to him all this, and he was very happy to know about it. Actually, in foreign exchange, fund management is also a very challenging task. Actually, we need a lot of funds for lending to customers and also for syndicated loans. Since the deposits are not that much, the main source of funds for the bank are only the interbank market. We had a regular credit limits from different international banks, and we used to borrow from them. But then that time, unfortunately, the foreign exchange position of India became very poor, and Indian government had to take the gold and pledge in Bank of England to get money from International Monetary Fund. So those were the times we also felt very difficult to get funds from different banks, even though limits were there. Since country risk was there for them, they were hesitant to lend to the bank. But with the personal rapport and discussions and all that, we were able to arrange the funds for the bank. So these are some of the major highlights in banking operation. Coming to general society, in Hong Kong, especially month of November, December, January, February, it used to be very cold, and always a cloud cover is there. So sunlight will not be visible at all. Sun will always be hidden in the clouds, and all the roads will have good lights all the 24 hours. Hence, it's sometimes very difficult to say it is a daytime or the night time. Suddenly, if somebody asks, it's very difficult to say that actually. So it used to be the same only all the time. And then always people will be on the road, very active, going up and down. The car movements will also be there all the 24 hours. And during the time when we were there was no breakdown of electricity. There was no breakdown of telephone also, net also. So these are all the some of the interesting facts I want to share with you. Thank you very much.